The Ministry of Finance said revenue-based fiscal consolidation has been implemented during the last 2 years in an attempt to bring Sri Lanka's government revenue to 15% of GDP by the end of 2025. There remains 1.5% of GDP revenue gains expected in 2025 in order to reach the 15% of GDP revenue target. The main revenue measure expected to help achieve the 2025 target is a wealth tax that is focused on property. The tax is expected to yield 0.2% of GDP by 2025 and 0.4% of GDP in a full year in 2026. Excerpt from Finance Ministry press release. The tax is expected to go through the regular legal process of amendments to the required legislation and is expected to come into force in April 2025. In addition to completing the legislative process, there is significant administrative work required to be done in terms of improving valuation mechanisms and databases in order to implement this proposed tax measure that was first announced in March 2023 with the publication of IMF program documents. In fact, that is not a new tax measure. The Inland Revenue Act No. 10 of 2006 included a similar imputed income calculation termed net annual value. Property in Sri Lanka is also subject to existing taxes such as local authority rates and stamp duty. Therefore, there is significant precedence for such a property tax. End excerpt. The Minister of Transport has warned that a failure to reach the required level of government tax revenue that can fund public expenditure would lead to a recurrence of the economic crisis that had devastating impacts on the entire country.
According to the former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake, this taxation is imposed on a limited number of people.
This is not something to be afraid of at all. Since it does not affect about 98% of the people, it is not a matter of owning multiple houses. This is just a taxation on houses that are bought for commercialization. There is absolutely no need to create a false narrative that taxes will be imposed on your house. Knowing this, in 2015 we created a certain tax for luxury residencies. There is a problem that somehow 1 or 2% of the people of the country are not paying the required amount of taxes. So no more taxes can be added to the payment. There is a limit. It will apply to owners of luxury residencies who rent those out. The government will only earn 2% of GDP through this.
කුලී පදනමින් දෙන අයට ඒකෙන් ලැබෙන ආදායමින් ලැබෙන දෙයක්. ඔය 0.2ක ආදායමක් තමයි හොයන්නේ.
Chairman of the Committee on Public Finance, Parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva commented on the imputed rental income tax proposal that has been mooted during the program Arthatharpa today.
තමන් ජීවත් වෙන ගෙයක් තියෙනවා නම්
If you have a house that you lived in, if that house has a certain value, and if you have an ability to get rent based on that value, you will be liable to pay the imputed rental income tax. If you have an additional house that you don't live in, that too will be subject to the imputed rental income tax.
හිස් ගෙයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒකට බද්දක් ගහනවා.
පරිපණම් බද්දක් කියලා දැනටමත් අපි ගෙවනවානේ.
ඔව් ඒක තමයි රේට්ස් කියන්නේ. ඒ රේට්ස් කියන එක ගෙවන්නේ නගර
ඒකට
සභාවට.
අමතර ගාන මේ දෙයක් තමයි මේ
මේක රේට් එකක් කියන්නේ කොළඹ නගර සභාවට හෝ
The rates are paid to the Colombo Municipal Council or the Kaduvela Municipal Council or to the Kotte Municipal Council. I said this twice, that when you are calculating a person's income, this must be imputed. That means it applies to every house that people live in.
ඒ කියන්නේ සියලුම හරි ජීවත් වෙන නිවාසවලට.
මේ පැහැදිලි කිරීම ලිපියේ සඳහන් වෙන ඉතාමත්ම පැහැදිලිව මේක මේ සාමාන්‍ය ආදායම් තත්ත්වයන් ලබන පුද්ගලයන්ට සම්බන්ධ වන බද්දක් නෙමෙයි මේ ඉහළ ආදායම් ලබන බද්ද.
ඒක
ඔබතුමාගේ සඳහන් කරන මේක හැම කෙනෙක්ටම පොදුවේ
ඔහොම දෙයක් එකඟ වෙච්ච අස්සම් කරපු එකේ නැහැ.
There is nothing that has been signed and agreed upon. The signed one states that except for some exceptions, all houses that people live in and houses that they don't occupy will be taxed. If a person has given a house on rent, there is no need to impute the tax on him. He is still liable to pay income tax. I believe that nowhere has it been mentioned that only those earning high profits will be targeted under this tax. This says that after a certain threshold, all houses will be taxed. It has specifically mentioned high value homes and those who own more than one home. It does not state that only those who with a high income will be subject to this tax. If that was stated, then there is no need to debate this here. I believe that this was something done to mislead the people. This is how it has been written by the IMF. It states all houses. This income must be added to your average income per month. This is a tax that must be added to what you pay as income tax. This is where the problem occurs. If you earn more than 100,000 rupees, you have to pay income taxes. This will be imputed to that income. This clearly states that this is not a tax on your house, but the rental income that is estimated. That income is imputed onto the salary that you will receive. Based on what I see, this is a complete lie. Let's imagine how much they expect. It is expected to be 68 billion rupees in the coming year, which means that this will be implemented in months. It doesn't work for a whole year, but 150 billion rupees is expected to be fully implemented from 2026. 150 billion rupees, which means that there is currently an excise tax, and when the income tax is earned, an equal amount of tax will be added. If we want to add a tax equal to that, it is possible to find 150 billion rupees from 4 or 5 people by hitting houses with large and high income assets. When reading this, no matter what the narrator says, the reader should read with awareness.
ඒකට සමාන බද්දක් එකතු කරන්න යන්නේ. ඒකට සමාන බද්දක් එකතු කරන්න නම් 4-5 දෙනෙක්ගේ ලොකු ඉහළ ආදායම් ඉහළවත්කම් තියෙන නිවාස වලට ගහලා රුපියල් බිලියන 150ක් වන්න පුළුවන්ද? බෑනේ. අර ඒතර මේක කියවනකොට කියන්න කෙසේ කියවත් කියවන්න සීබුද්ධියෙන් කියවිය යුතුයි කියන්නේ ඒක.